Hey guys, it's Matt Wenning at winningstrength.com, and today what we're going to talk about is something that's just an opinion. I'd love to hear your opinions below. You could list who you think are the greatest athletes of all time. So I'm not going to leave you guys hanging. I'm going to tell you the ones I think, and then we'll talk about why. 1, Michael Jordan. 2, Ricky Henderson. 3, Deion Sanders. 4, Larry Bird. And 5, John Elway, with some wild cards at the end. So list who you think, and I'm going to get to why I have this particular mindset.
Lately I've been living like I can't take a loss. They ain't wanna help me, that's what made me a boss. You can't kill my confidence, I think I'm the man. We don't give a f, that's what they don't understand. I'm back again like flu season. I broke records while loose leaf, and I'm coming down my roof leaving. Don't give a f, I don't care. Did the by my lonesome, no wonder now I'm on one. No shortcuts on that long run, all I really want is my share.
Well, we can't refute that Michael Jordan is probably the greatest athlete that at least my generation has ever seen. And most people are not going to argue that he is probably the best athlete. Now, going over some of his stats, I literally had to write an entire page of notes just to make sure I didn't miss anything. But I'm going to give you some opinion on why, before I get to these stats, why I think he's number one. Well, 1, he could play his own psychological games, not only with other people, but himself. Meaning that people would get mad at him if you watch The Last Dance. He would get mad at people, and people would get mad at him over things that were only either perceived incorrectly or not true at all, just to bring out the best in him when he played. That is something that is not really talked about with professional level athletes. Jordan was probably the best at it, at creating animosity inside his head to push past sickness, tiredness, long seasons, etc., etc. To me, not only having that mindset was the ability for him to get this level of stats. So let's go over some stats. Well, he's 6'6" tall. His net worth is $1.6 billion, making him probably the richest athlete ever. And the big thing that we have to understand is he got into the league in 1984. Why I put him above LeBron is he played a full amount of years in college and won a national title with the Tar Heels. That means that what if he would have went pro right out of high school? Who knows what the numbers would have been, because regardless, they're still crazy. 6-time NBA champion, 5-time NBA MVP, 6-time finals MVP, which is insane, 10-time scoring leader, 3-time NBA All-Star MVP, 2 Olympic gold medals, and again, we talked about the NCAA National Championship in 1981. He had 11 seasons of leading the league in points, first scoring champion with 100 three-pointers. Holy shit, right? And this is what I really like about Jordan as far as the longevity card is concerned. Not only did he play a full tenure in college, he was also the oldest player in the league to score, to lead the league in scoring at 35 years old. And also the oldest player to score 50 points in a game at 38 years old. Think about that. At 38 years old, he'd already been playing basketball at pros for over 15 years, and he was still the leading scorer at 38 years old, or getting 50 points in a game. It's insane. So I don't think Michael Jordan can be listed high enough. In my opinion, he's number one just based on the fact of how competitive he was, how much shit he won, and how dominant he was for how long. Just unbelievable. In an era where the game was insanely hard. You had Isaiah Thomas, you had all these really rough players. People actually played defense back then. So it's super, super badass that, I'm sure for most people they're going to put Michael Jordan at number one, and I definitely am going to do that as well. Number 2, this was a hard one to pick because there's so many that you could put behind it, but I'm going to throw wild cards in here that I don't think people talk about enough and need to. My second best athlete of all time, and I'm not going to put these in any real particular order other than Jordan being number 1, is Ricky Henderson. Ricky Henderson played in Major League Baseball from 1979 to 2003. Think about that career length. Regarded as baseball's greatest leadoff hitter and base runner. Lead the MLB in stolen bases, runs, unintentional walks, and leadoff home runs. He won 2 World Series. He was a 10-time American League All-Star, and he had 1,406 stolen bases in his career. Think about that. 1,406 stolen bases. I think the next closest guy is around 900. So he's 500 stolen bases better than the next player. He was the first person that I watched baseball as a kid and was like, oh man, baseball just got some serious athletes. When he was at the Oakland A's with Jose Canseco and Mark McGwire, his ability to steal bases was unbelievable. I would have loved to have known what his 40 time was. I'm sure it was in the 4.3s, if not the 4.2s. He had 3,095 hits, 297 home runs, 81 career leadoff home runs, and 130 stolen bases in a single season. If that doesn't mark greatness, I don't know what does. And again, I mark greatness based off of longevity for most of the people that I have on this particular thing, not only for their athletic accolades, but how long they lasted. The next one I think could be argued as well for a lot of people, but I think that Deion Sanders needs to be in the top 5. 5'11" at 198. His nickname was Prime Time. He had a 40-yard time of 4.27. 4.27. Okay, I mean, absolutely out of control. He played 14 seasons in the NFL as well as Major League Baseball for 9 seasons. So think about that. He barely had any time off. It was football then baseball, football then baseball. And not only did he do it, he did it for 14 seasons in the NFL and then 9 seasons in MLB. 2 Super Bowl titles, 1 World Series appearance, NFL Defensive Player of the Year in 1994, and the only athlete to ever play in both a Super Bowl and a World Series. So Bo Jackson would be up there as well if he had more longevity. Bo Jackson played in the All-Star games in both. I think he was in the Pro Bowl and in the All-Star game. So he was close, but as far as length of time, Deion Sanders smokes him. In the NFL, he's an 8-time Pro Bowler, Jim Thorpe Award in 1988, and he inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2011. Just based on speed and being a multiple sport athlete, you have to put Deion Sanders up there as one of the top of all time. Now, another one that was hard to do, but again, I think when you're picking single individual sports, it's hard to do. You almost have to have people that are multitasked in this particular thing to say best athlete of all time. John Elway fits that as well. John Elway was 6'3", 215 pounds. He played from 1983 to 1998, so a 15-year season with one team at Denver. Drafted in 83, first pick, but he was also an amazing baseball player, and he was #1 draft pick by the Yankees. And to play the Cards, he actually got traded to, I want to say he was drafted by Kansas City or the Colts, and he ended up trading himself to Denver, stating that he wasn't going to play in the NFL and he was going to go play baseball if he couldn't get traded to the team he wanted to go to. The point is imagine you're the #1 pick in football and the #1 pick in baseball. That is unbelievable. Only player in NFL history to pass for more than 3,000 yards and rush for more than 200 yards in the same season. He won 2-time Super Bowl champion. He was the ultimate clutch player. He could not only throw in the pocket, he could run, and he was big enough to be able to get off defenders, and retired with the most victories by the starting quarterback at 148, and that was broken by Brett Favre. But at the end of the day, if you look at his overall body of work and his ability to be drafted in the #1 pick in 2 of probably the hardest sports in all of the world to compete in, it's unbelievable, his ability. The next one that we have is I have to give some love to Indiana. And what I mean by that is we have to talk about Larry Bird. Larry Bird, if you go back and look at his highlight reels, is one of the most impressive, clumsy-looking athletes you had ever seen. 6'9", okay? Boston Celtics champion in 81, 84, and 86. He played 13 seasons. He was Rookie of the Year in 1980. He was the ultimate clutch shooter, right up there with Jordan. 12-time All-Star, 3 consecutive MVPs. So he won MVP 3 years in a row, 84, 85, and 86. He averaged 24.3 points a game, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists. He scored 21,791 points and was the 11th highest in NBA history. So what I want you guys to understand is this guy was dominant. But what I like about him was his competitive nature. He would absolutely talk trash. He would get in your head. One of the greatest stories I ever heard was, I believe, Magic Johnson was talking about them getting ready to do a series at Boston. And they're practicing for 2.5, 3 hours down on the court. And at the old Boston Gardens, they had a small track around the top of the bleachers. And Larry Bird ran that track the entire practice before the game just to mess with their heads, to show them how tough he really was. And they came out and demolished them. The point is that his ability to play, his ability to read the ball, pass, rebound, steal, and shoot, God put him up there in one of the top 5 of all time. And being that meticulous at that size is just unreal. So I give a lot of props to Larry Bird. So those are my main people. I'd like to know who your guys' are. My wild cards and ones that I could have put in here would have been Bo Jackson, Pete Rose, and Wayne Gretzky. Those would have been my 3 other ones to put in this list in no particular order. But I'd like to know what your order is, and give me some examples of why you think your players should be listed up at the top. It'd be awesome to hear you guys' comments, and I'm hoping to see you guys at winningstrength.com.
Lately I've been living like I can't take a loss.